Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by... Interested? Get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome, everybody, to WSTU, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm your host, Reese Gabbett, and I'm here with some other high schoolers. You can introduce yourselves.
Connor Fuchs from South Fork High School.
Osiris Ramos from South Fork High School.
Teague Williams from Clark Learning Advanced Center.
Wow.
Sam Crombie from Martin County High School.
Clark Learning Advanced Center. Wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
well
that's
done.
A new one.
Yeah. Welcome. So one new face, but welcome. Yeah, it's delightful. So
You want to just jump right into it?
jump right into it.
All right. So, Sam, you can explain. You can give the backstory behind Pelosi,
The
Trump
overview.
getting dunked on, I guess.
Okay, well, last couple of weeks in the news, we've heard about the government shutdown and kind of like the battle between Republicans and Democrats to get some funding passed for, different like appropriations and the battle over the wall for the Trump administration and Republicans to get that win and secure that $5 billion. And I think we're on maybe week 3, edging on week 4 of the shutdown.
It's 27 days so far.
27 days, right? Yeah, day until week 4. Thank you. And so, it's getting a little tedious at this point, and it's, a lot of back and forth in between different politicians, and specifically Trump and Pelosi, nothing new there. And so what's happened was Trump has been criticized a lot for different activities, different things he's done during the shutdown. And so today, Nancy Pelosi was on a trip, I believe, to the Middle East in a couple countries for some foreign affairs. And Donald Trump had a White House press release where he said, pulled the plug at the last second and said, no, you're not going anywhere. I don't know if he's actually allowed to do that.
Apparently he is.
Well, I guess so. But he essentially said, and Reese, you can read it, essentially said that if you want to travel to those countries, it's going to be on your own dime because there's 800,000 Americans who right now aren't getting paid and you're not contributing to the crisis. Or you're not helping.
This was a letter sent by Donald Trump to Nancy Pelosi. It says, "The Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives. Dear Madam Speaker, due to the shutdown, I am sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan has been postponed. We will reschedule this 7-day excursion when the shutdown is over. In light of the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay, I'm sure that you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. I also feel that during this period, it would be better if you were in Washington, negotiating with me and joining the strong border security movement to end the shutdown. Obviously, if you would like to make your journey by flying commercial, that would be entirely your prerogative. I look forward to seeing you soon, and even more forward to watching our open and dangerous southern border finally receive the attention, funding, and security it so desperately deserves. Sincerely, Donald Trump."
All right. So I think he hit all the bullet points.
Yes,
Anyways.
It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. All right. So any thoughts on that? I mean, it's pretty much, prior to that, the backstory to the backstory that Sam gave us is that the House Speaker has suggested that maybe we shouldn't have the State of the Union message because of security concerns.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, she is canceling the State of the Union.
Yeah, trying to, right?
Yeah.
I like that the comment about if you want to fly commercial, go ahead.
It's
exactly.
Just
on your dime.
twisting the knife there.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it's just interesting how immediately before that, she was constantly calling out President Trump, claiming, oh, you're leaving all these people unpaid. We have to move forward. And then she was about to leave the country while the government's still shut down.
Right.
That's insane to me.
Right.
Of course, you guys heard about the first time that they tried to work something out with Nancy and Trump in the same room. Trump ended up walking out and handing him candy.
Well,
Wait, what?
so
No, I didn't hear
Well,
about it.
okay, so the story there is, and this is important because you get one spin from the media and then another spin from the folks that were actually in the room. So the president asked her, he said, Nancy, if I agree to open the government sign a measure, a funding measure. Will you agree with me that we can negotiate for funding for the wall? And she said, no. He says, okay, we're done here.
Got up,
And
walked out.
he got up and left because there was nothing more to discuss.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm willing to work with you. Are you willing to work with me? And the answer was
Nope.
no.
All right.
He's okay.
Wow.
Game over.
Where's the candy coming?
Yeah.
That's how he
I-
greeted him. I think it was just a talking. It wasn't written down or anything, but where it says that there was a bowl of candy and Trump offered him two when they were walking.
All right. That's nice. Sure. Yeah. Kind of sweetened the deal.
Yeah, exactly.
hmm
Ah, good one.
So you like that? Okay. So yeah. So I mean, I'm not a Trump defender. Okay, because there's a lot of outrageous and things that it's not worth defending. But really, the people that were in the room said he didn't storm out. It wasn't a huffy situation. It was
Throwing a fit.
It was a business conversation. Are you going to do business with me or not? And the answer was no. He's okay. Well, then we're done here. It's like he's not going to.
Well, he is a businessman.
Right.
So
So there it is.
I like the difference of headlines on this story. You have Fox News saying Trump slam dunks on Pelosi, and then you have CNN saying Trump stops Pelosi from visiting troops in wherever she was going.
Right.
It's so funny how how that works.
Yeah, the spin is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yes.
like a few weeks ago, you showed us two different stories about two different sides of like the same story and how they're completely different. They're both
Right.
spun.
Right. They're just totally divergent. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so Rudy Giuliani, he stepped in it again. I don't know if you've been following that, but he went and said, when I say no collusion, I'm talking about Trump himself, not necessarily his campaign. Well, because the mantra has always been since 2016, nobody in the campaign has been colluding with the Russians. So suddenly there's some backpedaling.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there.
I mean, hasn't an investigation been going on since?
No evidence has turned up.
Yeah, no
whatsoever.
evidence. Yeah, yeah.
Seized
So,
the
and
lawyer's office.
how many
nothing.
millions of dollars? Do you know?
Multi.
Yeah,
There you go.
probably could have built a wall with that money, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Probably.
take a step towards it for sure.
No, it's like you said, the $5 billion to get it started is like
It's a rounding error.
it's a rounding error. Exactly. And I've been talking to people. They're like, well, $5 billion is a lot of money.
You
Not
bet.
for one of the richest countries in the world's budget.
Right.
I mean,
Nothing.
yeah, exactly.
Not even a slice of pie.
Yeah, no, it's a crumb. It is.
Yeah.
It is you round up 5 billion or round down 5 billion.
Right.
I know like a lot of people don't agree with the wall, but like I really think that it's at least like a place to start on the border, like
I think
something.
the wall is as much a metaphor as it is an actual.
So literally just something. Get the ball
Right.
rolling a little bit because we desperately need something done down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at a big picture, I know Trump's talked about using executive privileges to get the funding for the wall.
Right.
And I think at this point, that's the best way to go about it because I think he's entering the territory with the government shutdown where it's really hard for, especially with all the news outlets and, the different biases, it's really hard to turn it as it's the Democrats' fault, right? Every day that it goes on, I think that the population and how they view the government shutdown just becomes more and more negative against the Trump administration. So at least from my perspective, I think that it's best for him to, work something out, maybe just get funding for immigration in general, maybe not the border wall, reopen the government. And then if it's true, he can use his executive privileges, which I think he can, then he needs to do that. Because again, I think every day that he continues to draw this out,
Right.
it just makes him look worse and worse.
Perhaps. It's that is the argument. And I think the Republicans and the Democrats alike live on polling data.
Yeah.
And as long as the no wall polls well with the Democrats, then the Democrats are going to hold pretty firm.
Yeah.
And if that polling should change, I think they'll fold like a house of cards.
I think what Trump needs to do is instead of I've been getting a ton of ads for him asking me to add a list to a list of supporters, but I think he should really just hunker down on his ads and start putting out some stuff on the wall, some straight facts. And I mean, you don't really see any wall security or border management complaining about that a wall would be ineffective. That I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's
kinda
exactly it.
silly.
Yeah, you should talk to the people that are actually down there dealing with it. Instead
And they
of,
want it desperately.
They
Yeah,
do.
Put them on
Yeah.
loud.
I mean, isn't our border just a, what is it, like a
It's like a little
Fence.
piece of barbed wire.
it's barbed wire?
Some
for
parts it's
most of it.
just a river.
Yeah.
It's more about, I mean, it's obvious. This is obvious to all of us, obviously, but I just said that 5 times in a row. It's all the politics of it. It's not whether or not the wall would be better or worse, because
Right.
Nancy Pelosi had come out and she supported, while George Bush was in office, she supported the building of a barrier,
Mhm.
not a wall. So I think now Trump either needs to take the moderate approach where he's like, all right, we'll let the Democrats run it their way for a year, and when that doesn't work, we'll put the wall in, or he needs to use his executive privilege. But it needs to happen like now, because a
Yeah.
month for the government to be shut down is huge.
Well, and and while we're talking, there is a new caravan of people that are forming in Honduras, Guatemala.
Yeah,
And Honduras.
they're
Yeah.
actually those caravans are having a harder time getting through Mexico's southern wall than they are getting through ours, or not really,
Well, yeah,
because you got people
But
posted
there's,
there.
there's
the la-
2,000 people have already gathered up.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Mexico didn't care until the caravan was at their southern border, broke down the fence, and just
Yep.
flooded
Yeah,
in.
they just
And
walked
now they're
in.
just sitting in there because
Right.
they can't get into us. So now I assume Mexico doesn't want that to the same thing to
Right.
happen again. So
The mayor of Tijuana is like over the moon about this whole thing because he's got people all over the place and he can't care for them. He ran out of money weeks ago.
Mhm.
You know,
And the funny thing is that like people from America are taking money from corporate, like just raising money to help go down there and help
Yeah.
them and feed them, give
I mean,
them food.
don't illegal immigrants cost the country more than it would cost to just
Right.
build a wall? So
Yes.
wouldn't it actually be saving money?
It's a cost savings. There's no question about it.
It's purely politics.
And-
They're doing it so that because Trump's big motto during his campaign was we're going to get this wall
Build the
in,
wall.
and
Right.
if he doesn't get that in, then he's going to look really bad for these 2020 elections.
Right.
Yeah, and then
So that's exactly right. The Trump supporters and the people that are talking to the president specifically are telling him that if he caves on the border wall, then he can forget a 2020 run.
Yeah.
and
It's game over.
yeah, a lot of the left side news is trying to put out that they're families, and when in actuality it's like 90% male on the caravans
Mhm.
headed towards the border. When they ask what the reason is for their fleeing of the country, it's just that the U.S. has better jobs. It's not economic or just sheltering from their home countries with violence. It's just better jobs.
I mean, that
They're
makes
not
sense
worried
if
about
you
it.
look at how like chain migration, everything works. The males go first because then you can get a job and you can support yourself, send that money back to your family. And once you have a stable economic base, you bring everyone else in. You don't bring all your dependents with you on this awful trek.
I also think it's ironic because with at least the last caravan and how now they're stuck in Mexico,
Yeah.
Trying to get to the United States. I think it's funny. It's kind of ironic because it's really difficult to immigrate from those countries like Honduras, Guatemala, the Northern Triangle. It's difficult to come to the United States. And it's also difficult to come to the United States from Mexico. And now those individuals are stuck in Mexico's lack of bureaucracy, which leads to people coming over here as undocumented immigrants or as asylum seekers or refugees. Just because the Mexican government really doesn't care for immigration. So, it's kind of sad, but it's kind of ironic that just like all these countries, south of us that have these crises, they can't provide the infrastructure to their citizens so that they can come here and, and be well informed so that they don't have to come here, seeking refuge, as refugees or asylum seekers. So it's just the entire, situation and what's going on is just, it just all goes back to, our maybe a little bit on our government and then also foreign governments' inability to just be stable. You know what I mean?
Right. So the president's mandate is to keep us safe. I mean, that's one of his things when they take the oath of office, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that is amazing to me is that they found 6 terrorists that tried to come over the southern border. They captured 6 terrorists,
Wow.
legitimate terrorists, right? But the folks on the left say, "Oh, there's only 6." It's like
6 that we found.
right.
Yeah.
But it only takes one,
Yeah.
to raise a lot of havoc. So
Yeah.
Speaking of terrorism, did you hear about that terrorist whose plot? I think out of Georgia, he had an entire plot set up to bomb the White House and like different government buildings in D.C. And he was actually buying weapons from an undercover agent, and they discovered the entire operation.
Yeah.
Just came out today.
Oh,
wow.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, there's got to be just multiples of those types of events going on all the time. So
It's crazy to think too. Across the United States, like right now, there are probably hundreds of people that are planning
Plotting.
terrorist attacks. Yeah. And probably not a lot of them are going to be successful, but it's just crazy how like agencies like the FBI and CIA, like they really do their job.
Yeah, you got to be
It's
thankful.
impressive.
We got some serious people watching over us for sure that stops some pretty bad stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And when it does happen, they just double down on it. Like, I don't know if you saw the Boston bombing
right.
marathon movie that they made,
Mhm.
and like just like showing the efforts that happened in 72 hours. They like got an entire warehouse, and they had like hundreds and hundreds of people working on like crime scene evidence, and it was just like insane. The resources and like what goes into it,
Mhm.
and you just got to respect it.
FBI, CIA, they really get their job done.
Yeah, well, the CIA can't do anything domestically, so they got to have the NSA works domestically.
They also have their sketchy sides as well, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
yes.
do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. No
Mhm.
doubt about it. Okay, we've got a few minutes before we have to take break. Anything else we want to cover?
It's up to you guys.
Anything interesting?
Oh, sure. Do you guys know Senator Ocasio-Cortez?
Yeah.
Yes,
we are
we're
well
familiar.
with her.
Okay,
It's
so-
like
Not senator,
24/7.
isn't she a representative?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Representative.
Yes.
Yes. So
From New York.
her and there are 4 other freshman Democratic representatives who are with her. They have been trying to chase Mitch McConnell all around Capitol Hill, but apparently they didn't inform him in advance that they wanted to meet with him. So instead, they've just been walking around the Capitol with a news crew, going into his office, the Senate floor, just anywhere they think they might
Trying to
find him.
ambush him, huh?
Yeah, trying to ambush him. And that's been happening for about a day.
Interesting strategy. That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Pick on the weak,
Poor Mitch.
Yeah, poor Mitch.
I mean, you watch videos of like interviews with her, and you just wonder like how can she say like things like
they
that?
ask her
What's going through her head?
They
Exactly.
ask her economic questions too, and her answers are frightening.
I mean, she's a
And
socialist.
but she has a degree
And like
in business and in finance,
Mhm.
and it's like, whoa, what school gave you that degree? How did you earn that?
BU's got to step it up,
Whoa. That's right.
But I mean, to be fair, she was
Yeah.
out of school for a couple of years, doing her own thing. So,
Right.
Sometimes you can
So
lose that stuff.
Wasn't she
the
bartending?
brain
Yeah.
atrophied a little bit. Is
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Hey, I mean, there's a bunch of great, I think we've talked about it. There's like, you have the Congressional Budget Office, the Congressional Research Service, like
Right.
just,
She has resources that she
Yeah.
can go to for factual information.
we put hundreds of millions of dollars into Congressional Research Services just like to do this exact job, just
Right.
so they're well informed. So
I can just
There you
picture
go.
her going around like storming into the office like she's on Punked with a camera crew. Just
Right. Well, she said, being factual is not as important as
yeah, I saw that.
the emotional side of the argument is more important than being
No.
factual.
That's
No.
a real quote from her?
Yeah. Well, it's a paraphrase.
Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Along the lines, yeah, emotions are more important than facts.
which is interesting because if you listen to her speak, she's a really like rhetorically, she's a very good speaker.
She
Like
is.
if you give her a topic about like racism or something, right? She can give you a 10-minute speech
Mhm.
Rhetorically about racism.
Well, it's just all talking points,
Oh,
though.
yeah, of
that
course.
have been just drilled into her head.
Yeah.
Like that college education, she just sat there and listened to this stuff, for 4 years.
A human
So-
sponge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
a lot of virtue signaling, but she's a great speaker. She knows
I'm
how
sure
to,
she is, yeah.
win people over. But then you get to the policy making, what a congressman or woman is, and that's where you see some cracks.
Yeah, well, a lot of stuff like socialism, communism, all that stuff sounds awesome on the surface.
Yeah.
On the surface, and then once you implement it, that's when you see how truly awful it is. And we've seen it implemented in dozens of countries across the world, like any history textbook, and you can see that it fails. So,
Even today, Venezuela.
Yeah, go take a look at
Yeah.
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
It will
Yeah.
be interesting to see what this new wave of national socialism ideologies in like the House and Senate, and like social programs like healthcare, Medicaid for all, education for all, and since there's like it's such a big wave, it'll be interesting to see if there's any policies that actually get passed and like see the effect of them. Because I don't think the United States has ever seen something like that. You know,
No, yeah.
where it's like actually, I'm not going to say it's a threat, but a viable possibility that legislation around that is actually passed. So
I'm curious, where would the money come from for something like universal Medicaid for all or whatever?
Thin air.
I know that from Bernie Sanders, like from his education plan, and for a lot of different plans, it's usually based on Wall Street taxes.
So just tax.
the wealthy.
A lot of it's like tax the rich.
Yeah, like different
When has
transactions. and
has
stuff.
that ever worked? out?
Capital
Just, like-
gains tax? Yeah, I mean it does raise a lot of revenue, which is good. But
Yeah, of course it does,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like when has that ever worked in the long run, like
Right.
ever?
It's not an incentive.
Well, because like if you're rich enough, you can put your money somewhere else.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly.
Yeah, so they just take it out of the country, take it off site, and it's no longer taxable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
I think it's a
kind of-
question of like sustainability too. Because again, if you're taxing the guys making the money, where are you going to be 10, 20 years from now?
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Like,
not making
And
money.
how does that incentivize somebody to make money?
it may feel good the first couple years when everybody's all happy, going to the doctor's office for free, but after a
Right.
little bit, it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
oh.
these
yeah,
guys
you-
are the people providing jobs, and if you take money away, they can't provide as many jobs. So
I mean,
not helping
you guys,
them indirectly.
Connor and Teague, you remember, and Sam, you remember when our friend Nicola came down from Canada?
yeah.
And up there, it's mainly socialist, and he has free healthcare and everything.
Right.
And we were talking about it. He's like, yeah, it's good, but it sucks because like they take all of our money. The
Right.
government takes. like,
Well, and it gets
so
better
much
because
money.
I used to live in Detroit, right across the river from Windsor,
Mhm.
and so the Canadians would come into the United States for elective surgeries because they
The wait times, right?
didn't want to wait that long,
Yeah.
especially if it was cardiac work, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, tick tock. No, I don't think so. And so, and just recently, they've the past recent years, they've changed their insurance payout, so they allow for that, so that because people were actually paying for it on their own, in addition to having the Canadian insurance, they would actually pay out of pocket for the U.S. services. Now the Canadian government is picking up a portion of that,
Mhm.
but that's really because of the realization the Canadian government can't do it.
Yeah, it's like everyone can have it, but it's not guaranteed within a certain timetable or to have great quality. So like my family went to Ireland to visit other family members, relatives, and they were telling us about how one guy, he had to get surgery on his leg and he had to wait like 3 months for him to even be put on the docket. And that was like a short amount of time. Emma, she was telling me about how her and her sister needed to go to the dentist. They're from Poland. And it took like a year to get an appointment
At the dentist.
at the dentist because everybody needs a dentist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to wait.
Wow, that's amazing. All right.
Did you guys hear about
It's
the?
time now.
We're gonna go on break really quick.
We'll hear about it after.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we should talk about.
Okay, what are we going to talk when we come back? What are we going
What
to
are we
talk
going to
about?
talk about, Teague?
Well, did you guys hear about the university? Did you guys hear about the university who kind of signed off and made a public study and knowledge of and published these false, completely false studies of like male and female attraction and how they did perform studies in the dog park with like just completely radical
Wow.
numbers of
Wow.
like doggy.
Wait, we'll talk about it when we get back, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Can't wait to hear about
we- Yeah. Or the show's going to go to the dogs pretty soon, but we'll find out when we return. So stick with us. All right, now it's time for today's Southeast AgNet Report, which is brought to you by Everglades Farm Equipment, a family-owned business for the past 50 years with 10 Florida locations, including Fort Pierce, Okeechobee, and Loxahatchee. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Looking for. You'll get there.
Welcome back, everyone, to 1450 WSTU. This is your host now, Connor Fuchs, because Reese is in the restroom. Hello, everybody. We're back.
Okay. that's under the heading of too much information. But thank you
I
for
thought
sharing.
they deserve to know.
Okay.
People need to know.
All right.
How are you doing
So-
there, Reese?
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the dog park, and we got Bob on the line, so we want to bring Bob in. He might have some additional information he can share with us about dogs. But go ahead. Our new panelist has got some information he wants to share with us. Go ahead.
So the university is Portland State University, and a professor had he made up a study on dog sexual assault, and he had gotten the hoax published. And so basically, to sum it up, the post was completely infactual, referencing a dog park that the professor had studied about 10,000 dogs, a large number. I don't know the exact number, but somewhere out of reach of any dog park in the United States. And it was just factually incorrect. And the whole purpose, it was a hoax completely. And the people who wrote the study and got it published, they wanted to see how far the limits could go of left-wing ideology.
Just being ludicrous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely ludicrous.
Yeah.
Falsifying
Yeah.
all claims.
So they wanted to see if a professor would actually get behind something like that, and he ended up doing it, right?
Succeeding.
Well, all right. So now the school's got egg on its face,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so the remedy for this situation is they're going to just refer to it as a comedic prank.
Just
Yeah.
completely switch the
The narrative,
Intent.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Bob, you got anything to add on that topic?
Yeah, I had some friends who had a miniature female dachshund and who wasn't spayed, and she was in heat, and she was backing up at another family member's dog that was at the house who's been neutered, and she was backing up at his face all night long. He didn't know what the hell to do about it.
dog on dog assault.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you
yeah.
go.
It
All right.
was a she that assaulted this poor guy that has
Yeah.
nothing. He can't do anything about it.
Wow. So, all right. All right.
Here's another college thing I heard about. Did you guys hear about this? This is when I was up in Jersey. Some college wants to have a rule that any guy that's a lot taller than a short woman shouldn't really ask her out.
What?
Really? Why's that?
Health
This was on national news.
I really don't
Nobody
want
heard-
to know why.
Yeah.
Especially on the
Poor
radio.
Poor Shaquille O'Neal. He's out of luck.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what college this is from?
and no, I just heard it, and then it was on national news, and then me and my brother-in-law there, we were just laughing about that.
Yeah. All right.
You know.
So there's a couple of news items here. We were talking about the Mandela effect before we came on air, but this might be related to that. They said earliest impact craters on the Earth are now missing. They don't exist. So that could be part of the Mandela effect.
Whoa.
Wow.
And Saturn's rings haven't always been there. So that means they...
That makes sense.
Yeah, somebody, yeah, right. They may not have just started off being there. That makes sense. Sure, I agree with that. Here's a new one. Here's an exciting possibility. Mysterious radio waves are detected from space. So they're not talking about WSTU. So
Not us, yeah.
not those radio waves. But anyways, primitive life is in fact possible on nearby exoplanet. So
No, I don't doubt it.
yeah, it's possible as long as
Good,
it's
but
in
they're probably all still conservatives. That's good.
primitive life. Yes. But very good, excellent, Bob. So, anything else you want to add to the conversation?
I'm thinking about this federal employee. You know, they're going to get paid back
Right.
retroactive.
Right.
Even I was on looking at my bank statement on Wells Fargo, and I see they're willing to help these people out who work for the federal government because they know it's good advertising. They're going to get paid eventually. And, you know, so it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's good advertising, basically. You know, they're going to get their money back. But when I think about that, they talk about these federal employees. We got 2 million federal employees full-time in D.C. That's 1/3 of the population. Every borough in New York City We know there's 10 people doing the job of one person there because it's all about votes. They own every state around D.C. now. They get the votes from all those blue states, but they don't work. I haven't heard one word about the construction guys or the people in landscaping like me that, that suffer from open borders and their money they lost. Is that retroactive? I know a lot of construction guys, like I said before, that lost their jobs. They couldn't work what illegals could work for. Are they going to get paid retroactive?
I have a uncle that works in cement laying up north, Ohio, not necessarily Delaware or anything like that. But what he does, what those northern states have, is so they don't complain about it. Is they get paid for not working. They just get paid unemployment, and in the winter when they can't work, and they just take that instead and ride that instead of really making any change or trying to get any jobs. So they'll just take unemployment, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
The only other things I heard yesterday, watching Tucker, who I like, Democrats talking about we're causing death for these illegals at the border because they have to go around and they need to get here and because they have nothing where they're from. But, if you come here and turn this into your place, which will happen, then there's nobody left. We're the last lifeboat on earth, which I always say. I mean, if you poke holes in this country, the last lifeboat on earth, China and Russia are going to be the leaders. I mean, and good luck. Good luck then when we're a mess. We will get pounced on as soon as we get that weak. I mean, they're not China and Russia are not going to sit around when we get that weak from these borders,
right?
And just sit there and say, "Oh, whoa, poor USA." They're going to pounce on us.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the United Nations.
Yeah. All right, Bob. Well, we've got to take another regulation timeout. I don't know if you want to hang with us, but we're going to.
I'll hang in but let you guys talk. I'll throw in my stupid 2 cents down there.
Fair enough, buddy. All right, we'll be right back. So stick with us.
Welcome back, everybody, to WSTU, the Treasure Coast Forum. we were about to talk about The View, right?
Yeah, so Mayor de Blasio guested on The View, and we got a little snippet courtesy of Fox News. So we'll play that. Maybe.
Yeah, it's fine. Just intro music.
Oh, so I guess they're not going to
Oh,
have.
it's
There's
no audio.
No audio. All right, so
Oh,
okay.
damn.
All right. So, anyways, but Whoopi Goldberg and I guess the other hosts on The View complained about the mayor and complained that he screwed up the city. So I'd like to hear that audio. If we get it, maybe we'll play it next week. But
I can look for it real quick.
all right. Anyways, but it was kind of interesting. I thought we would listen for that. But what do you think about that, Bob?
The New York City is a mess. That's why I was. I think we actually in states now need the electoral college because the cities just. That's why the electoral college was made. They're the only ones that get the year, and everybody else in the state has to flee. Or
Right.
did you hear in Illinois now they have like an exit tax on your property on your house because they're everybody's fleeing Illinois and
Right.
California and New York. Yeah, they're trying to impose an exit tax. So you have to
So
pay
if you sell your
that.
property and you don't buy, turn around and buy new property with that money from the sale, so they're going to heavily tax you. Is what you're
Yeah, I
saying?
guess you have to buy it. You have to stay within Illinois.
Right.
I mean, this is
Right.
talk about border walls.
Right.
I mean, this is just incredible. I have a question. Last week, you guys were talking to Youth in Government about bills you're proposing, and somebody had one about what do you call it? Child support payments. Who was that?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, I thought that was outstanding. I have something
thank
to add
you.
to that.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of situations personally, and other people that where this has happened, and I agree with it, and I would like to add to it. Maybe instead of child support, it should be like gift cards, like EBT cards that can be used anywhere, but it says this is only for this child's clothes, and this is only for this child's this is only for this child's that. Because I've seen a lot of times the kids don't get much of that money.
Yeah, I mean, my bill is to try to prevent
Wasteful
irresponsible
spending.
parents
Right.
wasteful spending.
Mhm.
But then again, like that situation could be like the whole card idea may not work because I mean, let's say that there's a situation where they really needed this one specific thing that was helpful for the child, but all they had left were cards that were specifically for like clothes and such.
Well, they can have an emergency card for that.
Yeah.
Or maybe just make it so it's sort of like how you can see what has been purchased
Yeah.
on your credit card, that sort of thing. So whoever is giving that money who's paying child support automatically electronically.
Yeah,
gets a
maybe
copy.
maybe like a separate card.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that was a great idea because I've heard about this way too much and known about it personally from family situations.
Yeah, so have I. I
great
think
bill.
it's a big issue. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've been running. I was told Sean Plymouth, I'm running all the time for St. Lucie County tax collector, and I'm not going to do my job, so I should get reelected every year by most people, right?
Alrighty then.
I'm a write-in if you're from St. Lucie County.
Okay,
All
cool.
right.
Very
Put
nice.
in Bob. I won't do my job.
Shots fired.
Very good. Excellent. All right. Well, we've got a couple of items left. There's chaos on the House floor. Democrats are hold nasty vote to end shutdown. Republicans demand a redo. So that's courtesy of Fox News. CNN, let's see what they've got to say. On politics, Trump denies Pelosi's military aircraft for war. Denies the military aircraft for war zone trip. Jim Acosta reads Trump's childish letter to Pelosi, so they decided to name the letter rather than just.
Remember, Frank, she demanded a bigger jet when she was speaker last time.
Right.
Yeah, for her entourage.
Right.
And I'm thinking I have a solar powered hang glider. I'd be happy to push her off top of the Washington Monument on a cloudy day.
Oh, jeez.
She can, take her a while to get to Afghanistan, but she's welcome to have it.
All right. And this is an opinion piece that says Pelosi plays by her own rules and strikes out at Trump. And since says Trump is boxed in by the right-wing media and is shut down as shutdown drags on. So they say the right-wing media is boxing him up so that he doesn't have any wiggle room to work with Nancy, I guess is what they're suggesting. Is that where you read that?
Yeah.
Speaking of boxing up,
Mm.
how about that whole Brexit situation?
Yeah. You got any thoughts on Brexit, Bob?
No, I haven't been aware of the latest on it.
Okay. Well, they had a vote earlier this week, and they voted not to. So Theresa May had been negotiating for the past since they voted on Brexit.
Mhm.
She has been negotiating with Brussels to get some sort of an agreement, and she brought it before the House of Commons, right? I believe that's what it's referred to.
Right.
And they overwhelmingly rejected the measure, and to the point where they actually had to have a vote of no confidence to see whether or not she would even remain as the prime minister. And she did pass that because nobody wants the Labor Party in charge. So all the other parties agreed that maybe they may not be big fans of Theresa May, but I guess the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. So
Cortez from Queens likes the European Union. She talked about Sweden and other places. They're really sorry that they've messed up socially and socialistically. Sweden's been, with just from the illegals that they took in from the Middle East. The rape has gone up in their country amazingly. It's just I don't know. You like to be nice to people, but like these illegals are going to come here from a country that's socialist, and what are they going to do when they get here? They're going to they're going to vote for Democrats to keep the freebies coming. So what do you do?
Yeah, I don't. Oh,
I'm sorry, Reese. You have you don't have your adapter, do you?
I don't.
You can put it on the microphone. We got a little clip that he's going to play.
To find the spot 'cause it's like 7 minutes long.
Oh, it's too long. Yeah, we only got a couple minutes left. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, just back to Brexit. The reason why it's taking so long, I don't know as much about the situation in Sweden, Bob. I'm sorry. But for Brexit as a whole, the interesting thing is it doesn't just affect Great Britain because Northern Ireland and Scotland are all a part of the UK, and both of them don't want to leave. Scotland does not want to leave the European Union, and Northern Ireland does not want a border. So that's like a lot of what's holding Britain back. They have to decide.
Both those countries are hurt, and they were doing well, I think, a while back.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
They want to stay in the welfare hole.
Yeah, they want to stay in the EU. So Britain kind of has to decide if they're going to cut them loose and leave on their own, or how they're going to get them to come with them.
It's like all of South and Central America wants to be in our welfare hole.
Right. And interestingly enough, within Great Britain proper, only the folks that live and work in London are the ones that voted for Brexit, voted against Brexit. And it was because it's a financial capital and they do a lot of business with Europe. And so but the folks that live outside of London, they say, we don't want people in Brussels making our decisions for us. Is basically
sounds like upstate New York. It sounds like upstate or surrounding all the towns in California. Name one dem district in this whole country that is doing really well besides Silicon Valley.
Yeah, good point. Right.
The other interesting thing about the city of London is actually all the citizens. There's actually not a huge amount of people that live in London because it's a lot of businesses, but the businesses get a vote as well.
Oh, wow. That is interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not one man, one vote. It's
it's each person you have to be a part of like a guild.
Yeah.
With the company, and each guild gets a vote for certain things.
Wow.
That is
And you
interesting.
put on wigs and you get to yell at each other. That's kind of cool.
It is really interesting too. The conversation on the floor of the
Oh,
House
yeah.
of Commons.
Shaking all the papers.
Wow, they got a lot. It's very noisy. In
Oh, yeah.
there. Wow.
I got it's like a soccer game's going on there or something.
Right. Right. Yeah. Very cool. Very interesting.
All right, so if you guys were interested why Whoopi Goldberg was going off on the mayor, it was because
The mayor of New York.
the mayor of New York. It was because he removed the outer in traffic. He removed the outer lane and replaced it with a bike lane. So now traffic is more congested,
Oh.
and now wide trucks bringing food into the city can't make those wide turns.
Whoa.
Oh,
So it wasn't really political by ruining New York. She was talking about traffic.
Yeah, but the bikes, Reese. You got to remember the bikes.
no, my family we were lucky enough to be in New York City recently, and you can really see the traffic is brutal. We saw they have these little smart cars as police cars now, and even them with their sirens going, they can't fit through the streets.
I was just in New York too, and it's terrible.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
Bike lanes, less fuel emissions. Go green.
Go green.
Those aren't. I lived in Jersey. Those aren't tolls. That's amusement park entrance fees you're paying when you go through the tunnels and bridges.
Amusement park entrance fee. Okay, well, that was amusing. And we've got to go. But we thank you all for listening and being a part of our show. Thanks,
thank
Bob.
you.
Thanks, Bob.
And we'll be back again next week. And we're going to talk about what the Mandela
effect.
Yes, we're going to take some tests off air, and then we'll see how we score. All right, so stick with us, and we'll be back next week with Treasure Coast Forum.
Have a great night.
Have a good week.
Good night.